All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. What is going on, Knock Nation? Happy Friday. Welcome to another great day, y'all. It is a great day to choose joy, a great day to talk about Apollo. I'm excited, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know, I'm excited to interview M certainly not financial advisors, and this is not financial advice. This is a conversation about what was mentioned in the Apollo AMA last night. So, without further ado, let me add on MJ Matt Johnson, the founder of Apollo Crypto. There we are.
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing great, especially after last night. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, good energy. Seemed like there was a lot of good response, and everybody enjoyed the direction.
I am crazy excited. I know the Apollo Army is as well. If you know Discord and Telegram and the text messages and the phone calls and the DMs that I've been getting are any indication. And I got to say, first of all, first and foremost, congratulations on not just surviving the bear market, but building in the bear. Now, I'm not saying it's over. But what I'm saying is you're still here. You guys keep building, and we want to make sure that we appreciate you guys and give you guys a shout out for doing so. A lot of quitters out there, not you guys.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's as we've always talked about. It's on our blood. You've been doing it long enough. It's like you just build and put your blinders on, no matter what's going on around you. You just you believe in the product first and foremost, and everything else works itself out.
No, you're right. And what you said right there, it's in our blood. I want to get to that in just a moment here. Talk about your background, what's in your blood. How have you guys, how did you become the way that you guys are and operate? We're going to get into your background. We're going to get into the business side of things. But before we do that, maybe there are some people listening or watching that have no idea what I'm talking about. Maybe they missed the news last night. Can you just re-announce for us what you stated last night?
Sure. Well, as everyone knows, we started with a big passion in building platforms and helping creators and creatives. So year one for us, 2022, was really about, exploring Web3, building our foundational platform, and then bringing opportunities to creators. All along, we talked about this example of like Amazon. They start with books and then they moved into the world's general store. Well, the idea is we knew we were going to start with something and then evolve into something bigger. And it made a lot of sense as we started brainstorming on this after the last contest, that we move into gaming, because I've led gaming teams and gaming companies for over 25 years. And, I've built some great things for great brands. And we really believe that if it's in your lifeblood or your passion to do something, you're going to be most successful at it. So when we started looking at that, combined with some successes in the space and some opportunities that exist in Web3 gaming, which, I think are exploding right now, it was kind of a no-brainer. We wanted to get into the idea of building games, but of course, not just a game, but we're big about building a platform or an ecosystem where people can compete across lots of different games. So I touched a little bit on and like what a singular or a few games from us first party might look like this year in terms of the overall ecosystem flow. But we'll get in the coming weeks, we'll get into what the actual game mechanics and things are for sure that we plan on launching first. And then that's just the first of three bubbles, right? So we have the game, then we have what we're calling the arcade, and then we have the SDK. And we want to save talks about those last two, but you can kind of see where that trajectory is going. I mean, we built software systems where other people could participate and put their content on it. A platform for game publishing basically is part of the big vision here.
That's exciting to hear. So, okay, so let's get to let's do maybe some work on your background. For the last year, I've talked at length with Knock Nation, those that have kept their eyes on the Apollo Crypto project, about the fact, the reality that launching projects, getting involved with tech, building businesses, running teams, coming up with a vision and then executing and delivering. These are not new themes to you. And the reason why I always highlight that when it comes to crypto projects is, for better or for worse, too many crypto projects are led by teams that don't have much experience. Now, really in life, let alone project development, business development. In some ways, there's some positivity there because maybe someone's not entrenched with
Right.
old fashioned ideas. But in a lot of ways, especially when we're talking about the amount of money that flows in and out of crypto, that could be problematic. because when issues arise, we don't know if the leaders we're dealing with are battle tested. What I find most remarkable about the Apollo Crypto leadership team is your track record. In order for me to try to make to make a determination on future success, I've got to take a look at past results. And when I look at your resume, when I look at your portfolio, when I see what you guys have done in the past, I'm blown away because there's nobody in DeFi, and I do mean nobody. I've looked hard. I got a lot of people that I get projects that reach out to me literally every single day of the year, and I have for the last 1 year and 4 months that I've been doing social media. And I've never seen in my time of being on social media anyone or any team with a track record quite like you guys. So I want to get into that. It's very important. So, what have you guys done? How did you get started in your career? I really want to deep dive on your background and your experience. So I know you're probably not used to talking about yourself or tooting your own horn or anything like that. But I do think it's important for my audience. If you could serve my audience by letting us know what exactly have you done? What have you accomplished? And what have you been a part of in as much detail as you're willing to share?
Yeah, and like you saw last night, I mean, I've seen the slides going around with the logos and the icons. I mean, those are certainly proof points that we put out there to. And I love your example of like, don't always look at it because the old dog team has been there and they've done that. That it doesn't need that counterbalance of new, fresh blood that has ideas that are related that aren't entrenched in other space. That's very well put, by the way. But
Thank you.
yeah, our background really has evolved with, let's call it, four major ways of technology. I mean, when I was a kid, I think I mentioned this on the stream before, I grew up with the TRS-80s and the Commodore 64s of the world. So some of the first accessible home systems to start writing programs on. And, I found it fascinating. I lived this double life through high school of writing programs at night and playing basketball during the day. You didn't intertwine those two things back in the late 80s and early 90s. You were one or the other, right? So I knew that technology was kind of the path I wanted to go, software development specifically. And then about the time that the web was coming into full online fruition, got interested in building things like in Flash and Shockwave and tools like that for games online, and started working for companies and consultancies that offered these types of services to big brands. And what we found was really unique is when it came to engagement and retention, like all these major brands are always looking for what's on the bleeding edge that's going to capture people. And throughout history, it's been games. I mean, that's what people flock to. That's what they bring to. And I was like, I want to stand in front of that tidal wave. I want to be in front of that innovative what's next and what's doing it. And games seem to make a lot of sense. So, I posted several pieces of work over the last week or something that we've done over, 25, 30 years on my Twitter. But, a lot of it starts back with this game we built in 1999 with the company I was with called Elf Bowling. So it was a crazy little pass around executable, but it really showed us the power of this kind of viral propagation and what could be done for it if you were to attach a brand to this, not just the good gameplay itself. And it is a combination. There's lots of games out there that's just like, let's reskin something cheap, or let's do something, easy and slap a logo on it. And, people see through that. People know what's genuine and what's not. So we built a series in the 90s of advert games and, games for brand activations. And, for big companies like Nabisco, Procter and Gamble, did some really kind of innovative stuff in there. Got involved when the big YouTube community started sprouting up, and these, guys like, the Annoying Orange and Freddie Wong and stuff like that were coming online. They're like, yeah, that's how our audience loves games. We talk about games. We stream about games. How do we bring them in? So we said, well, we build games, let's do that. There's another monetization opportunity. And it turned out very well. I mean, there was some great opportunity for monetization in there. And you're talking about games that, brands will spend anywhere from a couple $100,000 to $1 million+ on developing. So it's a real revenue opportunity on, from a consultancy on the front end, but then on the back end with revenue share, it comes in as well. And that's really where the real opportunity is, the in-app purchases, ads, things like that, secondary monetization streams. So that was a great learning experience. Got into VR and AR. You've seen some of the stuff I've done in sports and some of the cool augmented reality stuff. It's really early in VR. Like I got a great collection of old headsets now that, as that evolves. So very passionate about that. And I think it's still got a long ways to go, but it's going to be pretty amazing someday. And then, back to my roots and doing brand stuff. But eventually it became like this chocolate and peanut butter thing, man. Like, wow, I've been, doing the chocolate for years. The new Web3 thing and the Apollo crypto project is about creators. Game creators are a space that I've, nurtured people in and brought people in and worked for me and been a part of industry communities and things like that. This seems like the logical fit. And then when we started going looking at some great other projects that have succeeded out there in the Web3 space, it's like, why aren't we doing this? This just makes a ton of sense to evolve our platform.
I'm actually looking at the tweet. I just retweeted it while we were talking here. And by the way, Knock Nation, if y'all have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Not because I'm going to ask every question that you guys have, but if I like something that I see, I might pick it out. But here's kind of what I'm looking at. Apollo Crypto DAO, you guys tweeted about last night about 5 o'clock Central Time. Deep gaming portfolio # Apollo Crypto Web3 DAOs. And I'm seeing brand logos here. Is that the Dallas Stars I'm seeing as a logo?
Yeah, we built some. The company I was with back in the '90s when they first moved into town, we did their first website development, and part of that was when I was in some of those coming off those exploratory advert games and things like that. But I think we built like a Slapshot Flash or Shockwave game that got built into their site. But also, I like one of my coolest parts of that project wasn't necessarily gaming, but it was kind of gamified. The first seat selector in a stadium we built, to go and see where your view was, and then you could purchase your tickets from there. So again, just proof points of the idea of like, we love new tech like Web3 and diving into things like that and saying, that's never been done. Let's figure it out.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I got to pause right there because that's incredible to me. You just like casually, you drop stuff casually. And I, as a part of the Apollo Army, I have to like narrow in on it because what's normative and common and basic and just another day at the office for you is like revolutionary technology changing the world. You created the seat. You guys were a part of creating the seat selector mechanism that we now see inside of apps such as movie theater apps or maybe selecting seats at a sporting game. You guys were among the first to do that.
Well, I can't claim, that we invented the technology that exists today. I just think the idea that was brought to us by them is like, how do we have a great visualization of seeing what your seat looks like? So, our photographer went out there and shot pictures from every single section and different views. And then, I wrote the programs to be able to stitch that all together and have people go in there and tie into their ticketing system. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at all these brands here. I mean, I can rattle off all the names, but it's way too many to list off in this conversation. So y'all can go on Twitter and see what the deep portfolio looks like for yourself. But it's no secret that you guys have a track record of success. I mean, I think you literally dropped the number 1999 on my platform today. You've been at this since the 90s. That's crazy. What was I doing in 99? I was I was in third grade. Third grade. That's what I was in. I was learning no, not algebra. Probably maybe getting into multiplication. So while I was learning 4 × 4 = 8, you were building games, apps, projects that I, as a kid, I'm like, I went through your portfolio a little bit, and I actually recognize that WWE. I played that game. There were games that I played as a kid, and it's so crazy to think that you had a hand in that. You and your team, your company had a part to play in that, and so I see the track record. Now you guys have had a lot of wins, but you also, I'm sure, faced adversity, technology continuing to change. Can you talk about just the journey of overcoming obstacles, especially when it comes to tech development, project development, and just the reality of that, and how you guys just kept on building and developing year after year, decade after decade?
Yeah, like I mentioned, the ways it's always interesting when you reach one point and you think you got a lot figured out and have a product or solution for the marketplace, and then everybody switches from web to mobile to the whole language system available or that you program in or something like that for native mobile changes, and you just adapt. But all the fundamental underpinnings of user experience really don't change. I mean, the form factors that we interface with do, but it's just understanding. It's about, like I said in the presentation last night with the pillars, it's about people at the foundation. And it's just like, if you have a people-centric view of how you build, like, you can overcome anything technology-wise. And a lot of it is just about a network of talent as well. So like a lot of these experiences that we've been talking about, obviously have been with different companies and, different people that have worked with it, and some that are with us today still. But it's keeping that alumni network alive. And when you run into a problem, you kind of know the skill sets and the person that can kind of understand and adapt and help us solve that problem. So that's another benefit really of being in this business for so long, is just like the resources that you have to be able to tap to get something done. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, from trying to push the limits on things like CD-ROM delivery and it's low bandwidth and stuff like that, I would not go back to those days for $1 million. We used to have to worry about like graphics palettes. You can only use 256 colors in any kind of experience or whatever, so you'd have to ship these anyway. Like there's some nightmare stories early. It seems a lot easier now, but there's so many services and platforms to deploy for now, and there's so many things that you have to kind of pick and choose. What do you do first? I think that's more the other end of the pendulum challenge than it was back in the day of limit too many limits. Now it's just too many options, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to highlight the reality that it hasn't always been cupcakes and roses when you have a portfolio that big and that successful. And you guys have had a pattern of not just succeeding and building games and tech, but you also have a pattern of overcoming adversity, changing market conditions, and continuing to adapt and evolve. I think it's important as a token holder, as the voice of the Apollo Army. I think it's important for me and for us to understand that the leadership around this project is battle tested, that the journey is not always perfect or easy. The road might get bumpy, but we have a leadership team that will continue to push and persevere. And you've done so for decades now. And so I'm in the comment section. They were like, hey, man, 4 times 4 does not equal 8. So
I wasn't going to
I
call you out on the live stream on that, but
my bad. I'll stick to TikTok. Y'all do math, and I'm sure we'll all come out ahead at the end. Third grade failed me. Public school. Sorry. All right, moving on. Let's talk about not only what you've done in terms of development, but let's talk about business as well. How did you guys monetize gaming? I know that these platforms, these companies, organizations paid, anywhere between a couple of $100,000 to up to $1 million for one game. They paid y'all what?
well, I mean, I think when you look at it in the big mix and the type of company, I mean, what would you pay for a big commercial production? The buys, everything around that. I mean, if you feel like a game can reach your core audience and even have some trickle monetization for a big brand in there that helps recoup, like it becomes a math problem. It becomes a no-brainer. It's just really the same strategies now. There's a lot of games out there, so you have to have a marketing design for it. You have to know how to reach your audience and go through the right processes, and that's what we're doing regardless of the fact that Web3 is kind of new to games and there's a limited supply. You still want to do it the right way, right? But yeah, I mean that we built divisions of companies or whole companies just solely around the fact that games are big business.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's interesting. So okay, so they would pay for the consultancy, the services rendered. It could be anywhere between 200 grand, a million, could be less or more, depending on the project, of course, over the span of decades. I know you also mentioned in-app purchases, potential advertisement, revenue sharing on behalf of those you design and develop for. The reason why I want to highlight what you stated is because I think it's important for an Apollo crypto token holder to understand that when Matt Johnson, when the leadership team of Apollo starts to talk about game development, don't just think about you as an end user. I want the Apollo Army to begin to think about it from the perspective of business, revenue generation. That if we have a project that can consistently create a great game or games, create a platform that develops games, plural, that there's tremendous revenue, and money making opportunity. I mean, it's no secret that Microsoft and all these major big, tech companies have made billions. The gaming industry is billions upon billions of dollars. And so as I look at emerging technology, right, Web3, whether it's AR, VR, crypto, metaverse, however way you want to define Web3, emerging technology coupled with the insatiable need for entertainment as well as gaming, I just see a really beautiful harmony and a tremendous money-making, revenue-generating opportunity. How do you see gaming and Web3 coming together in the time, I know you're not going to give away a ton of details regarding the way that you guys are going to specifically develop, but in a general sense, what do you see ahead for the industry?
Well, I think the same rules that have existed in gaming forever will still exist. The idea of like be fair, don't allow people to buy their way to wins, and thus, within the Web3 or the crypto sphere, run away with everything because they bought it. We had to adhere to those standards. But yeah, I mean, I think using tactics like, I can go and try things for free and feel comfortable with them, see where the ecosystem is all about, and then convert into maybe an Apollo holder that wants to stake or put their money into the gaming ecosystem and play to win. Or, I'm someone that says, I really care about this game and I want to go out there and buy this NFT that will reskin it, or, give me some options within my gameplay style in a strategy game, so to speak. So I think there's another revenue stream that comes through NFTs and publishing, our own drops of things, in the near future. And then, I think there's this really interesting brand centric aspect that, brands can have a customized game or a reskinned game through the use of an NFT that they sell to be able to use that content on their site and then have some form of affiliate relationship with us. So the idea of like building games for brands that can then take the core mechanic that everyone likes and then say, hey, it's mine, come play against me as content. Because we've created some games in the past um, where it's more about than just monetizing directly in the game. It's about something like multiplayer that they can play with their audiences to create content with. And there's a lot of power in that. So the idea of like some of these games might, Hanok could reskin the game to be, your battler or something like that. And your fans could come in and play with you in there and still benefit the ecosystem while doing so.
That's interesting. So, hey, y'all let me know in the comments. Do y'all think we should come out with a Knock Nation video game powered by Apollo? Should I, shell out $1 million or whatever it's going to cost, and get that revenue in Apollo in exchange for a video game? Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think. MJ, I want to ask you about that initial game, the game that kind of kickstarted everything for you guys. That Elf game, I think it was back in the '90s, if I'm not mistaken, maybe early 2000s, whatever it was. If I understand correctly, that actually went kind of viral before viral was really a thing. I mean, if I remember correctly, you guys had about, was it 50 million users? Am I off?
Well, I think it was within the 2 weeks leading up to Christmas in 1999. There was about 50 million gameplays that we tracked. So, we sent this thing out as kind of our company Christmas card at the company I was with at the time, and said, but at that time it was just like you attach it to your email and then pass it around. But because of this game and some others, that pretty much shut down the practice by Microsoft for allowing executables to be passed around. So yeah, we had like a thing that would analytics wise ping us whenever there was a gameplay, but we were on radio interviews and things like that with people playing and competing. And I just think it was the right time for something that was a distracting diversion during the holidays and something that was familiar to people, yet funny. I mean, it had all these right ingredients that we believe in for our games. That really connect with people. They don't have to be uber complex. They don't have to be huge, first person shooters every time. I mean, sometimes a simple and familiar mechanic that we, twist just a little bit and put, a great fun theme to it is all it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I just want to highlight just some big takeaways in regards to your background. A ton of ways for games to develop revenue. It's why it's a multi-billion-dollar industry as a whole. You guys have been building games and platforms on behalf of brands and generating millions of dollars in revenue on behalf of the company for decades now. You guys, this is not new to you. And the reason I think it's important is because there are other crypto projects that have created games, and there will be more that come in the future that will continue to create games. And I think what sets you guys apart is this does not intimidate you. This is what y'all have been doing for almost, for almost 3 decades now, about 3 decades. And so for me as a token holder, that's extremely encouraging. If I were to have to start, for instance, for me, I was on the phone with somebody today who was just trying to get some insight on how do you create millions of views on TikTok. That's something that I'm now familiar with, but I've only been doing it for about a year. It's crazy to think that you guys have been doing, what you've been doing for 30 times that number. And so as a token holder, I'm encouraged. I know the money's in safe hands, good hands in regards to you guys will deliver product, right? No one really knows how price will work itself out. I mean, we're in the middle of the bear market, maybe at the end of a bear market here, and maybe things will turn around soon. But the bottom line is that, we can count on the fact that you guys have done this before many times over. and generated a ton of revenue on behalf of brands, organizations, certainly for yourselves, your businesses. And I think those are some key takeaways. You've created viral games, you've created games on behalf of organizations, and everything in between. So I'm excited. I'm encouraged. I certainly hope the Apollo Army is as well. What can we look forward to? I know that last night's announcement was the first of many announcements to come over the course of the weeks, the months, and the years ahead. What's ahead in the near future that Apollo Army should maybe pay attention to or be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing I mentioned first is this groundwork that's being laid for onboarding. So as I mentioned in our reflection of 2022, yeah, it's just challenging to teach creators and people that are new to crypto, how to get to the centralized exchange and then move it and swap for Ethereum and into Apollo. Like there's been some real growth in the space of people helping you do that. It's kind of turnkey through a website where they can handle the wallet creation and getting the swap tied in with Uniswap pretty tightly, so the user experience improves a lot. So we knew that no matter which direction we were going, that was important to remove that friction. So the team is working on that as we speak. We'll announce more about the partners and the system and all the details about that, and shortly. We're talking weeks, not months or anything like that for that one. And then parallel to that, it's really about our typical game process. Like what is the mechanic? What is the existing game on the shelf? What is it that we want to take and have be the first kind of beta candidate for proving out this ecosystem? I mean, you saw how we did it with contests last year. It's just like, hey,
Yeah.
how do we start simple? It's wallet voters, and then we learn from it, and then we evolved into free voting. And yeah, let's touch on where that platform is too, because there's a piece where they reconnect. The creators are still important to us, and I said I'm not going to talk about those last two bubbles, in which it really squarely fits into that. But in the near future, it's about defining what our game is, how we're going to approach it in terms of monetization, like you're talking about, that's supplemental to the ecosystem. So we're not just continuing to drain the DAO. One of the big challenges last year at the end of the contest with Crypto Winter was the value of the tokens was lower, and we had to give away a lot more of the DAO and deplete the DAO. But we do have some additional announcements to the DAO replenishment, which I think is going to be a really cool program that community has already, quite frankly, started to spearhead, and we're going to come in and align with them on it, which talks about DAO replenishment. And from there, it's just kind of heads down for the next several weeks. But we will be having these kind of keynote-ish AMA type presentations at the base camps, I think we called them in the presentation yesterday, every 4 weeks or so. So every month, we're just going to kind of drop some new piece of news about how we've evolved and where we're at, and talk a lot about, what it is, because we want to be open and share the process. That's why we created those Trello boards when we started this project, right? It's just, you see how we work. And the fact that we punched in over 500 tasks over last year got me excited. It'll probably be 5,000 when we get into this game. But we like to work publicly. That gets us energized when we're sharing a little artifact of our design, or artifact of some creative. And I think this will be a lot more visual, because one of the things that we knew when we were doing the contest is you'd have a contest, everybody vote, and then okay, we're done. Is the next contest? It just gets a little redundant. Well, with this, it's just it's exciting to be a part of the process. But then when you get the game out there and everybody starts engaging into it, they're sharing their scores. They're talking about how well they did. They're talking about the awesome Hinox skin that they bought the NFT and made it into a completely different game. There's a lot of chatter and activity that happens around gaming. And then, I'll pull out one question I kind of saw go down the stream. It's just but yeah, it's then where do you scale that? And not to get too much into arcade, but we can only create so many first party games as a team here. We're also building the infrastructure here. It's important to know that there are tons of good game designers and developers out there that we can help incubate, that we can make part of, this system. And game developers are creators too. And when I say this is 2023 is the year of the game, while we explored, broad creativity last year, we're exploring game creativity this year. So those pieces will fit back together, because I know some people, the comment there, might be scratching their head. How does this fit into the creator contest? Stand by.
Oh yeah. Oh man, we're standing by. We cannot wait. So I'm really excited. You guys creating, maybe one game is as exciting as that is. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be incredibly, a lot of revenue to be generated there. But the idea that you guys could even potentially create a platform or an ecosystem that can foster the development of a number of games is certainly exciting. And we'll see what you guys have to announce, to us, but that would be an exciting prospect, I'll tell you, as a member of the Apollo Army. Yeah, I'm really excited. As I think about what you guys are building, the possibilities, I can't help but to allow my imagination to run wild. Everything I do is wild, and so I'm just imagining a day where maybe we approach a project. We have this ecosystem built out, and then we approach a project or a company like Coinbase and say, "Hey, listen, we build games. This is what we do. We've been doing it for 30 years. Now it's through the funnel of Apollo Crypto. What would it look like for us to create a game, for a Coinbase or a Binance, right? They don't have a game out yet. What would it look like for them to create a game that allow them to engage users that are maybe not a part of their ecosystem on the crypto front in exchange for a listing? I could see things like that happening. I could see all kinds of partnerships, agreements, connections, and open doors and opportunity within Web3 as we take this legacy concept of gaming and implement it within new technology within Web3. I do want to ask one question though that I saw. Is this okay? I know gaming it's a lot, right? Like the idea of, you did 500 tasks last year. It might take you 5,000 to, to do this one or whatever the number is going to be. It's going to be a whole lot more work. Is it also going to take you 10 more years to develop the game? What
Yeah,
might be
I
the
mean that's a fair question. No, I think that's one of the old dog advantages that you mentioned before. Like we do have, a lot of mechanics that we own the IP for that are off the shelf. We know how to take existing code bases and make them fresh and new, and deploy them relatively fast. I'm not going to put a timeline on anything today, but I mean we're not talking years here. We're talking, we will have content out there this year and be growing it and learning from it. And then it really just depends on how quickly we can scale that, fostering of other game creators and moving into those last two bubbles,
That's
to
awesome.
build on it from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, a matter of months. So I'm excited. I know the Apollo Army is crazy excited. My network is buzzing. I've got a ton of crypto influencers reaching out to me, calling me, talking to me, guys I haven't heard from in a very long time. And you guys have made. I got to tell you, MJ, you guys have made a lot of noise in the DeFi space. A lot of projects have quit. A lot of projects are they're not evolving. They don't have offices. They don't have teams of developers and engineers. They don't have a track record and a portfolio of working for or on behalf or collaborating with major brands. You guys can go on our Twitter and see who these guys have done business with in the past. But, this is just what you guys do. It's just another day in the office for you guys. I'm excited. The Apollo Army is excited. Your expertise, your leadership, the fact that you guys are leaders in the industry. You're not pawns. You're not punks. You're not some sideshow. You guys have led in this industry, the gaming industry, for years now. And for you guys to take that expertise, that skill set, that genius, get into your bag, as the kids say, and bring it here is going to be exciting. So I can't tell you how excited the Apollo Army is, and we're really really excited. So anything coming up next week that we should be aware of or pay attention to?
Yeah, we still got to line up some times, but a couple more follow-up AMAs like this. I've talked to your
Awesome.
pop and Jake Gagan. They're interested in kind of talking further through this. So I think it's a little bit of just, roadshow to reiterate this. We're going to take a lot of the information that was in, I know it went fast in the keynote last night, and we're going to disseminate it, through our social channels and just make sure that people really understand again, what we accomplished last year and how that will be the basis or foundation that accelerates our development this year. And then it gets into after that, like I said, we'll talk more about the donation. We are going to do something importantly for the Golden POAP holders, a giveaway. These are the individuals. I think there's 7 of them that voted in every single contest and collected the proof of attendance NFT last year. So really value those loyal people to the projects. We're going to take care of them. So that'll happen in the next couple of weeks. The onboarding stuff I talked about. We're going to have an exciting kind of cool thing about an advisory board that's coming on with some interesting people on it. I think that will
Oh yeah.
get people excited as well. Yeah, there's probably a dozen things that will trickle out over the next 2 weeks that we touched on very briefly in the AMA, and then next month, like I said, when we try to do our monthly things, will be a deeper dive into that ecosystem diagram, and hopefully, kind of start to narrow down on and announce what that first actual game concept is going to be.
That's exciting. Well, we're excited. The Apollo Army is excited. We really appreciate you and your time. Thanks for spending this time. Where can we follow the Apollo Crypto project for those that are maybe new to what's happening
Yeah.
here?
So the best place to get all the centralized information in the decentralized world, I guess, is our website, apollocrypto.org. From there, you can link to our Discord. That's probably the best place to kind of, as we evolve the gaming stuff, to dialogue with us, our Telegram. And then, of course, follow us on Twitter at Apollo Crypto DAO. Yeah, it's probably the best place to keep track of all the most recent happenings.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you all so much. Really appreciate your time, Knock Nation. And thank you, MJ and the Apollo Army, for being with us today.
All right. Thanks for having me, Hinnock. Good to see you.
No problem.